I saved a Vulpine woman from the burning wreckage. Now she says I'm hers. The vastness of space stretched endlessly around Ethan as he piloted his small starship through the swirling colors of the nebula. The lights of distant stars sparkled faintly through the haze, and he could feel the subtle hum of the ship beneath his hands. He had flown many routes before, but this one was particularly quiet, almost too quiet. Ethan enjoyed the silence. It allowed him to think, to plan, and to remember why he loved being among the stars. Yet, there was something different this time. A soft flicker of light on his navigation console caught his attention, a signal weak but persistent. It pulsed with a rhythm that was unmistakably a distress call. Curiosity mixed with concern, and Ethan leaned forward, adjusting the sensors. "Where are you coming from?" he murmured to himself. The signal wasn't strong, but it was enough to trace it to a nearby sector. As he maneuvered the ship closer, the shapes ahead began to take form through the thick nebula. A wrecked shuttle, its hull scorched and smoke trailing into the void. Flames danced across the edges, painting the scene in orange and red, reflected faintly on Ethan's ship window. The sight made his heart quicken. Someone or something was in trouble. Without hesitation, Ethan engaged the autopilot for safety and suited up. The temperature controls kept him steady, but he knew time was critical. With careful maneuvers, he positioned his ship alongside the burning shuttle. Small pieces of debris floated between them, sparks colliding in the vacuum, creating brief flashes of light. Ethan could see movement inside the wreckage, a figure trembling trying to shield itself from the chaos. His chest tightened. He had no choice. He had to help. The airlock opened with a hiss, and Ethan guided his small rescue pod closer to the shuttle. "Hold on," he called out, though he knew the figure might not understand him. Then, with careful timing, he extended the magnetic grapplers, securing them to a safe part of the wreckage. Slowly, he approached, pushing the pod forward inch by inch. The heat from the fires was intense, but he ignored it. His only focus was reaching the figure trapped inside. Finally, he managed to open a hatch on the shuttle, and there she was. The creature inside startled him at first. She was humanoid, but unlike any human he had seen. Her fur glowed a soft orange in the flame's light, and her eyes were golden, intelligent, and wide with fear. Her ears were pointed and alert, twitching as she tried to make sense of the burning surroundings. Despite her injuries, she was conscious, though her breathing was ragged. Ethan could see small cuts across her arms and a bruise forming on her shoulder. He quickly pulled out his medkit. "I've got you," he said gently, sliding a safety harness around her. She flinched at his touch at first but relaxed slightly when she saw his careful movements. Ethan applied antiseptic to her wounds, cleaned the blood from the cuts, and wrapped them with soft bandages. She winced but did not resist. He worked quickly, glancing once at the shuttle's burning hull. Every second counted, but he knew he had to finish tending to her first. "Can you walk?" he asked after a moment. She nodded weakly, her movements cautious. Ethan offered his arm, and she took it, her small claws gripping lightly, careful not to scratch. Together, they navigated the debris-littered area, stepping over floating pieces of metal, until they reached the edge where his pod waited. He helped her inside, and she sank onto the seat, breathing heavily. Ethan noticed her chest rising and falling rapidly, signs of shock and exhaustion. "What's your name?" he asked gently as he activated the pod's controls. "Leora," she whispered, her voice melodic and soft yet trembling. Her eyes stayed on him, and for a moment she did not speak again. Then, in a tone that was both sincere and strange, she said, "You saved me, now I am yours." Ethan froze for a moment, unsure how to respond. The words were unfamiliar to him, even strange, but he sensed the meaning behind them. It wasn't a claim of ownership like humans might think. There was trust, gratitude, and something deeper in her gaze. He nodded slowly. "I'll keep you safe," he said, keeping his voice calm, gentle. Leora's eyes softened, and she leaned back, allowing him to pilot them to safety. The trip back to his ship was quiet. Leora looked out of the pod window, her ears twitching at the soft hum of the engines and the distant flashes of the nebula's colors. Ethan glanced at her now and then, feeling an unusual mix of wonder and responsibility. She was completely different from anyone he had ever met, vulpine yet humanoid, intelligent and clearly strong in ways he couldn't yet understand. But right now, she was fragile, and he would not let anything happen to her. Upon returning to his small starship, Ethan helped Leora inside. She examined everything with curiosity, stepping lightly, though still cautious. Her movements were graceful, deliberate, and every step seemed to carry intelligence and instinct. Ethan set up a small medbay area for her to rest while he prepared food and water. Leora watched him silently, tilting her head slightly, her ears flicking in thought. "I don't know much about your kind," Ethan said as he moved around the ship. "You're not human, but you're intelligent. Where are you from?" "My home is far," she replied softly. Her voice carried a subtle musical quality and her words were measured. "I was on a mission to meet others, to bring peace. But my shuttle failed." She paused and looked down at her hands, then back up at him. "You saved me. I do not forget." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest he could not describe. The galaxy was filled with countless beings, yet this one, small, lost, but brave enough to survive, had found him. Somehow, by chance or fate, he had been in the right place at the right time. He nodded quietly. "You're safe now, that's what matters." Over the next few hours, Ethan tended to Leora, checking her wounds and helping her adjust to the ship's environment. She was wary of the technology at first, studying buttons, screens, and panels, but she quickly learned simple tasks. She could operate the doors, adjust the temperature, and even help him calibrate some of the ship's minor systems. Ethan watched in amazement. Her mind was sharp, and she adapted faster than most humans he knew. As the stars outside streaked past in long trails, Ethan noticed Leora shifting uncomfortably in her rest area. He approached her and asked softly, "Still hurting?" "Some," she admitted. "But I am stronger than I look. You've given me hope." Ethan smiled faintly, unsure why her words struck him so deeply. She was thanking him, yet her tone carried a weight of something more profound, something unspoken. He sat beside her quietly, giving her space but staying nearby. Leora's ears twitched as she watched him, and for a moment silence stretched between them, comfortable and strange all at once. "Why do you say I am yours?" Ethan finally asked, curiosity winning over caution. Leora tilted her head, considering him. "It is a custom among my people," she said. "When someone saves your life, when you trust them completely, it is a bond. Not ownership, but loyalty, protection, togetherness." Ethan nodded slowly, beginning to understand. The words made sense in a way he had never expected. It was not about possession, it was about connection, a mutual promise of care. He reached out briefly, brushing a strand of fur from her face. Leora did not flinch. She watched him with a soft gaze that seemed to say she understood he was beginning to grasp her meaning. "Then I will honor this bond," he said quietly. "I'll keep you safe, I promise." For the first time since the crash, Leora's expression relaxed. She leaned back fully, her eyes half closed in relief. The hum of the ship, the distant colors of the nebula, and the quiet of space enveloped them. Though they were strangers in the vastness of the galaxy, a connection had formed. Ethan did not know what the future held, but at that moment, it felt enough to simply be there, together, surviving, learning, and trusting. As the ship continued its journey through the nebula, Ethan glanced at Leora again. She was asleep now, her small body curled up on the medbay couch, and for a moment he felt a strange protective pride. He had saved her from the wreckage, yes, but somehow in saving her, he felt like he had also found a companion, someone who would challenge him, teach him, and perhaps, in time, change the way he viewed the stars and life among them. He leaned back in his pilot chair, hands resting lightly on the controls, and allowed himself a small smile. The universe was full of unknowns, full of danger and beauty alike, but for the first time in a long while, Ethan felt that he was exactly where he needed to be. And somewhere in the stars, a Vulpine woman, soft, intelligent, and full of quiet strength, was resting, knowing that she had found someone she could trust completely. And perhaps, just perhaps, he had found someone who would forever belong by his side. The nebula's colors shifted outside the window, painting streaks of violet, blue, and gold across the ship's cabin. Inside, the warmth of trust, hope, and new beginnings filled the small vessel. The journey was far from over and many challenges awaited them, but for this moment there was peace. And that peace, fragile yet profound, marked the true beginning of their story together. Ethan woke early the next morning, the soft hum of his ship blending with the gentle light filtering through the windows. Leora was still asleep, her ears twitching slightly as if she were hearing dreams he could not understand. He watched her for a moment, amazed at how peaceful she looked after the chaos of the crash. The bond they had begun to form yesterday seemed to grow stronger in the quiet of the cabin. Ethan felt a sense of responsibility he had never experienced before. This was no longer just a chance encounter. Someone depended on him entirely, and he would not fail. He carefully prepared breakfast, simple food from the ship's supplies, and set it near her resting area. Leora stirred, blinking her golden eyes as she came awake. She looked around, then at Ethan, and a small smile touched her lips. "You are awake," she said softly. Her voice had a melodic quality, soothing and calming. "I wanted to make sure you had something to eat," Ethan said, gesturing to the tray. "You need strength to recover." Leora's ears twitched in appreciation. "Thank you. I have never had anyone care for me like this," she admitted, her tone quiet but sincere. She cautiously reached for the food, tasting it carefully. Ethan sat nearby, watching her, wondering how she had survived alone in the galaxy before this moment. As they ate, Leora began to talk about her homeworld. Her words painted vivid pictures in Ethan's mind. Tall, golden forests filled with towering trees, rivers that shimmered like liquid glass, and skies that changed color with each passing hour. She described her people, agile and intelligent, who lived in harmony with their surroundings and valued knowledge and trust above all else. Ethan listened with fascination. The universe had always seemed enormous and distant, but through Leora's words, he began to understand that life elsewhere could be just as rich, vibrant, and meaningful as on Earth. "I am a traveler," Leora continued. "I was sent to meet other worlds, to learn, to share. My mission, it is important, but sometimes the stars are unpredictable." She paused, looking at him with her golden eyes. "If you had not come, I would not have survived. You saved more than my life. You saved hope." Ethan felt a warmth in his chest he could not explain. He had always thought of himself as a lone traveler, someone who moved through the stars without attachments. Yet here was Leora, a being so different from him, who had already changed the course of his journey simply by existing. He nodded slowly. "I'm glad I was here," he said honestly, "and I'm glad you're alive. That's what matters." Over the next few days, their routine developed. Leora's wounds were healing quickly under Ethan's care, and she began exploring the ship more confidently. She was fascinated by human technology, her keen eyes noticing details Ethan had overlooked. She learned to operate simple systems, adjusting temperature controls, lighting, and even helping him chart the course through the nebula. Her presence was not just comforting, it was helpful. She had an instinctive understanding of balance and precision that complemented Ethan's practical skills. One morning, while Ethan was checking the ship's sensors, Leora approached him quietly. "May I try something?" she asked. Ethan turned, curious. She held a small device she had found in the ship, a navigation module. "I want to understand how you see the stars, how you choose the path." Ethan smiled. "Go ahead," he said, handing it to her. Leora's fingers, delicate and nimble, danced across the controls. She adjusted readings, moved markers, and traced paths through the nebula with surprising accuracy. Ethan watched in awe as she worked. Her eyes glowed faintly in concentration, and her ears twitched as she analyzed the soft sounds of the machinery. "You're good at this," he said after a while. "It is different from my usual methods," Leora replied. "But the principles, they are similar. Observation, attention, timing. The stars have rules and so do the machines." She paused, looking up at him with a small, pleased smile. "You have patience. That helps." As the days passed, the bond between them deepened. They shared stories, laughter, and quiet moments of reflection. Leora taught Ethan subtle ways to observe and interpret the environment, the shift of light, the slight change in temperature, the hum of energy through the ship's hull. Ethan shared human customs, simple things like favorite songs, memories of Earth, and small jokes that made Leora's ears twitch in amusement. Despite their differences, they found common ground. The universe, vast and unknown, suddenly seemed smaller when shared together. One afternoon, as they navigated a dense part of the nebula, a sudden burst of light from a nearby energy storm illuminated the cabin. Ethan's hands gripped the controls tightly, and Leora instinctively leaned toward him, her small body close, yet trusting. "It is beautiful," she whispered, her eyes reflecting the colors outside. Ethan smiled at her words, feeling a protective warmth. "And dangerous," he replied lightly, though there was a hint of admiration in his tone. They navigated through the storm carefully, their teamwork seamless. Leora's sharp instincts complemented Ethan's experience, and together they managed to pass through without damage. When the turbulence ended, they both exhaled, laughing softly at the tension that had filled the cabin. Leora's laughter, light and musical, made Ethan's chest tighten in a way he could not explain. It was a sound of joy, relief, and trust, all in one. Later, as the ship settled into calmer space, Leora turned to him. "You protect me not because you must, but because you choose to," she said softly. "I did not expect this. Most would leave me to my fate." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. "I don't leave people behind," he said simply, "no matter who they are." Her golden eyes glimmered with appreciation, and for a long moment neither spoke. The silence was filled with understanding, a quiet recognition that they were no longer just companions by chance, but partners navigating a vast, unpredictable universe together. Over the next week, Ethan taught Leora more about human ways. She learned about the basics of communication with other species, how to interpret signals from distant ships, and even simple human etiquette for social interactions. She was an eager student, absorbing knowledge with a sharpness that amazed Ethan. In return, Leora shared aspects of her culture that fascinated him: the importance of trust, the way her people measured time through natural cycles, and the way they celebrated small victories with rituals that honored both effort and outcome. One evening, as they drifted near a quiet star, Leora approached Ethan with a small, handmade object. It was a charm, carved from a piece of crystal she had found in the wreckage. "For you," she said, holding it out. "To remember that our bond is not only of survival but of choice. I choose to stay with you." Ethan took the charm, holding it carefully. He felt a warmth spread through him, a recognition of something deeper than friendship or duty. "I'll keep it safe," he said quietly. "And I'll keep you safe too." Leora's ears twitched with a gentle expression of satisfaction. "Good. Then we are ready for what comes next," she said. The words carried more meaning than she could express in human language: readiness, trust, and a willingness to face the unknown together. The following days were filled with exploration. Ethan charted courses through minor star systems, seeking supplies and information, while Leora observed everything with fascination. They met other travelers and traders, sharing stories and learning about distant cultures. Leora's presence often drew attention. Her appearance was unusual, and people were naturally curious. Ethan noticed this but did not feel threatened. He was confident in their bond and abilities. During one encounter with a group of friendly explorers, Leora demonstrated her keen understanding of alien machinery, helping repair a malfunctioning system that the human crew had struggled with for hours. Ethan watched with pride as she worked, realizing that her skills and instincts were extraordinary. She was not just a companion, she was a partner, capable of thinking, reacting, and learning in ways that complemented his own abilities perfectly. As the days turned into weeks, Ethan and Leora's relationship grew in subtle ways. They shared quiet breakfasts, explored new star systems together, and spent evenings watching distant worlds through the ship's observation windows. Each moment was a lesson in trust and companionship, and both began to rely on the other in ways they had never imagined. One quiet night, Leora approached Ethan while he was reviewing navigation charts. She sat beside him, her golden eyes reflecting the starlight outside. "Ethan," she said softly, "you have changed the path of my life. You saved me, but more than that, you showed me that trust is not given lightly, but it can grow quickly when nurtured." Ethan looked at her, feeling the truth of her words in his chest. "And you've changed mine," he admitted. "I never thought I would meet someone like you, someone who understands without needing everything explained. You've made this journey better." Leora smiled, a gentle, quiet expression of warmth. "Then we continue together?" she asked. Ethan nodded without hesitation. "Yes, together." The nebula continued to stretch around them, vast and full of unknown wonders, but for the first time, Ethan felt that the universe was not as lonely as it had once seemed. With Leora at his side, there was trust, curiosity, and a bond that promised growth, understanding, and shared adventure. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew they would face them together. And so, with the stars as their witness, Ethan and Leora prepared to continue their journey through the galaxy. The fire of the wrecked shuttle was long gone, but the spark of a new connection burned brightly in their hearts, a bond of mutual trust, curiosity, and the beginning of a companionship that neither of them could have anticipated. The nebula stretched endlessly around Ethan and Leora, a swirling canvas of violet, gold, and blue. Their ship glided silently through the misty expanse, its engines humming a low, steady note that both comforted and reminded them of the distance from familiar worlds. It had been weeks since the wreck, and Leora had fully recovered. Her fur gleamed under the ship's soft lighting, and her golden eyes sparkled with curiosity and intelligence. Yet, even as she grew stronger, Ethan noticed a subtle tension in her movements, a readiness that spoke of a life shaped by danger and survival. Ethan glanced at her as she leaned over a navigation console, adjusting minor systems and observing energy flows. "You've really gotten used to this ship," he said, a small smile tugging at his lips. Leora looked up, ears flicking in amusement. "It is not difficult," she said. "I learned quickly as you taught me. I observe patterns, understand connections. The machines respond to care and attention like the forest of my home." Ethan nodded thoughtfully. Leora had always been observant, precise, and patient, qualities that complemented his own practical, sometimes impulsive, approach. Together, they formed a balance, a partnership neither had expected. "Do you ever get lonely?" Leora asked suddenly, her gaze fixed on the colorful clouds outside. "In the human worlds or among your people?" Ethan considered her question. "Sometimes," he admitted, "but I've always traveled alone. I like the quiet of the stars, the freedom to move, but it can feel empty too." He looked at her and felt a warmth that had nothing to do with the ship's temperature. "You're here now, that changes things." Leora's ears twitched, and a small smile curved her lips. "Then I am glad I am here." Their journey continued through sectors filled with drifting debris, colorful gas clouds, and occasional clusters of distant stars. Each day brought a mix of discovery and quiet routine. Ethan taught Leora about celestial navigation, explaining how to read star maps and interpret gravitational currents. Leora absorbed every detail, her mind sharp, and soon she was able to anticipate shifts in the nebula, helping him adjust course before problems arose. One morning, as they floated near a cluster of ice-covered planets, Leora's senses detected something unusual. Her ears twitched and her tail flicked with subtle tension. "Ethan," she said softly, "there is something ahead, a current subtle but strong. It will affect the ship's path." Ethan leaned over the console, trusting her instincts. "Show me," he said. Leora moved deftly, tracing lines on the navigation screen and highlighting the areas of concern. Ethan followed her directions, adjusting the engines and shields. The ship shuddered slightly as it passed through a shifting energy flow, but the combination of his experience and Leora's intuition allowed them to navigate safely. "That was impressive," Ethan said after the turbulence subsided. "You really are learning fast." Leora tilted her head, ears flicking in thought. "I learn best when I am needed, when someone depends on me." Her gaze met his, golden eyes steady. "I am yours as you said I am, and I will not fail." Ethan felt a lump in his throat. Her words, simple yet sincere, reminded him of why he had rescued her in the first place. He reached out briefly, placing a hand on hers. "You won't have to," he said softly. "We're partners. We face this together." As days passed, the nebula continued to test them. Shifting energy storms created unpredictable currents, and small pockets of space debris required careful maneuvering. Each challenge strengthened their bond. Leora learned to anticipate Ethan's reactions, offering suggestions and adjustments before he even considered them. Ethan, in turn, learned to trust her instincts, appreciating her perspective on situations he might have approached differently. Their partnership became seamless, built on mutual respect and understanding. During a particularly calm evening, Leora ventured to the observation deck, staring out at a distant gas giant with swirling storms of green and white. Ethan joined her, leaning against the railing beside her. "It's beautiful," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Yes," Ethan agreed, watching the planet's clouds twist and dance. "The galaxy is full of wonders, but it's better when someone sees them with you." Leora's ears twitched and she glanced at him. "You speak of companionship often. Is this what humans call friendship?" Ethan considered her question. "It's part of it," he said slowly. "Friendship, trust, and sometimes something more. But mostly it's about being there for each other, even when the stars are unpredictable." Leora nodded, her gaze returning to the planet. "Then we are companions," she said, "and perhaps more in ways I do not fully understand." Her words carried honesty, and Ethan felt the weight of them. Their journey led them to an isolated research station orbiting a small, rocky moon. Ethan docked the ship, and they stepped out into a small, open courtyard. Leora's eyes widened at the sight of humans and other species bustling about, exchanging knowledge and observing experiments. She was fascinated by the diversity and innovation, yet she remained composed, absorbing details quietly. "Your people work well together," she remarked. "They share knowledge freely, unlike some societies I have encountered." Ethan smiled. "Cooperation is key. Even in the stars, no one can thrive alone." Leora nodded thoughtfully, and together they explored the station. Leora's insights proved valuable. She noticed minor energy fluctuations, detected small errors in experimental setups, and offered solutions that surprised the researchers. Her combination of instinct and learned knowledge impressed everyone, and Ethan felt a swell of pride. This Vulpine woman, whom he had rescued from a burning wreck, was not just intelligent, she was remarkable. One evening, as the station quieted, Leora and Ethan sat in the observation lounge. Outside, a nebula glimmered like liquid jewels, reflecting softly on the glass. Leora reached out, gently taking Ethan's hand. "You saved me," she said, "but you have given me more than life. You have given me purpose, trust, and connection. I am yours because you chose to care, and I choose to be with you." Ethan looked at her, words caught in his throat. He had never imagined such a moment where the galaxy felt simultaneously enormous and intimate. "And I choose you," he said finally. "Not because I have to, but because I want to. You are important to me, Leora." Her ears flicked in surprise and delight, and a soft smile spread across her face. "Then we continue together," she said. "Through nebula and star, through challenge and wonder, together." Their journey resumed the following day, the ship gliding through gentle cosmic currents. Leora observed, assisted, and occasionally guided Ethan as they navigated minor anomalies and navigational puzzles. Each success strengthened their bond, creating a rhythm of trust, reliance, and mutual respect. They laughed over small mistakes, celebrated minor victories, and shared quiet reflections under the light of distant stars. One morning, a soft alarm alerted them to an unexpected energy surge in the nebula. Ethan adjusted controls, guiding the ship carefully, but Leora's instincts detected subtle variations he had not noticed. "A slight current here," she said, indicating a path on the display. "If we follow it, we avoid the turbulence." Ethan followed her suggestion, amazed at how precise and effective her guidance was. The ship moved smoothly, avoiding what could have been a challenging situation. "You really are extraordinary," he said, genuinely impressed. Leora tilted her head, ears flicking in quiet amusement. "I learn from you and from necessity. The stars are unforgiving if one does not observe and adapt." Her golden eyes met his. "And I trust you." The statement struck Ethan profoundly. In the vastness of space, trust was rare and precious. And here, floating among stars, he had earned the trust of a being so different yet so extraordinary. He felt a surge of gratitude, responsibility, and connection all at once. Days turned into weeks, and their journey through the nebula continued. They discovered hidden clusters of asteroids with glimmering minerals, observed distant solar flares that painted the void with light, and encountered travelers who shared stories of distant worlds. Leora's insights often made their interactions smoother, her observations bridging gaps between species and cultures. Ethan watched her, sometimes marveling at how much she had grown since the crash. She was confident, competent, and graceful, yet she still carried the quiet vulnerability of someone who had known hardship. One evening, as the ship drifted through a quiet sector, Ethan and Leora sat in the observation deck, watching the stars. "Do you ever think about home?" Ethan asked softly. Leora considered the question. "I do," she admitted. "But I also think about now and the journey. The home I remember is beautiful, but it is distant. Here with you, I am learning a different kind of belonging. Not a place, but a person, and perhaps that is enough for now." Ethan reached out, brushing a gentle hand along hers. "It is enough," he said. "As long as we face the stars together, everything else can wait." Leora's ears twitched, and she leaned slightly toward him, a gesture of trust and closeness. "Together," she whispered. The word felt sacred, a promise that spanned the vast distances of the galaxy. And so their journey continued, through the swirling nebula, past distant stars, and toward unknown wonders. Each challenge, each discovery, each quiet moment of shared reflection strengthened the bond between them. Ethan had saved Leora from the burning wreckage, but in return, she had brought something extraordinary into his life: companionship, trust, and the quiet promise of shared adventure. In the endless expanse of space, where stars glittered like scattered gems and mysteries waited beyond every turn, two beings from entirely different worlds had found each other. Their connection was a testament to courage, compassion, and the simple, profound power of trust. Together, they moved forward, ready to face whatever the galaxy held, side by side, bound not by obligation but by choice. The small ship glided silently through the void, moving away from the swirling colors of the nebula and toward a quieter sector of space. Ethan had adjusted the course to follow the faint signals of habitable planets that were rarely visited, places where they could rest, explore, and learn more about the galaxy without disturbance. Leora sat near the observation window, her golden eyes reflecting the distant starlight. She had grown accustomed to the rhythm of space travel, the hum of engines, and the endless motion of stars. Yet there was a new calm about her now, a quiet confidence and ease that came from knowing she was safe and cared for. Ethan watched her in silence, marveling at the grace and strength she displayed. Though she had recovered from her injuries, she moved with the alertness and intuition of someone who had survived many challenges. She was more than just a survivor. She was a partner, a companion, and perhaps something even more profound. They had been traveling together for weeks, learning from each other, sharing stories, and observing the quiet beauty of space. Leora's curiosity never waned. She asked questions about human life, about the stars, and about Ethan's past. In return, Ethan learned about her people, their traditions, and the values that shaped her thinking. He listened to tales of her homeworld, where forests glowed under twin suns and rivers shimmered like liquid glass. Her descriptions made him long to see it someday, to witness the world she spoke of with such reverence. "Do you ever miss home?" Ethan asked one evening, as the ship drifted past a cluster of small, icy planets. Leora's ears twitched, and she looked at him thoughtfully. "I do," she admitted. "But I also know that home is not only a place. It is those who care for you, those who understand you. You saved me, and in doing so, you gave me a new kind of home. I belong here with you, even if it is among the stars." Ethan felt a warmth spread through him at her words. He had always thought of home as a place, a planet with familiar landscapes and familiar faces. But Leora had shown him a different kind of belonging, a bond that transcended distance, species, and circumstance. They spent their days exploring minor star systems, observing uninhabited planets, and collecting small samples of minerals and plants for study. Leora's keen senses and intelligence proved invaluable. She could detect subtle energy shifts, anticipate environmental changes, and suggest safer paths through areas that might have posed challenges. Ethan had learned to rely on her instincts, trusting her insights as much as his own experience. One day they arrived at a small forested planet, largely untouched by civilization. The atmosphere was breathable, the ground firm beneath their feet, and the air carried a faint scent of flowers and earth. Leora's eyes widened in delight as she stepped out of the ship, her fur catching the sunlight. She moved carefully, sniffing the air and examining the flora with fascination. "This is beautiful," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. "It reminds me of home." Ethan smiled. "I thought you'd like it. It's quiet here, peaceful. A good place to rest and learn." Leora nodded, her tail swishing gently as she explored further. She demonstrated her natural agility, leaping gracefully over small streams and climbing trees to get a better view of the surrounding area. Ethan watched, impressed by her dexterity and grace. She was unlike any being he had ever known, yet he felt an undeniable connection to her, a sense of trust and companionship that went beyond words. As they set up a small camp near a clear stream, Ethan prepared simple meals while Leora helped gather resources from the surrounding forest. They worked in harmony, their actions synchronized without the need for constant communication. Each movement, each decision, seemed guided by an unspoken understanding, a partnership that had grown naturally over their journey. In the evenings, they would sit by the water, watching the twin moons rise over the forest. Leora shared more stories of her people, explaining their rituals, their reverence for nature, and the ways they measured time by observing the cycles of their suns. Ethan, in turn, told her about human traditions, family stories, and the small joys that made life meaningful on Earth. They laughed over differences, marveled at similarities, and discovered the depth of connection possible between beings from entirely different worlds. One night, as the stars shimmered above, Leora spoke softly. Ethan, you have given me something I never expected. Not just life, but trust, companionship, and care. You see me for who I am and not only for what I can do. That is rare among my people, even rarer among others. Ethan reached out, gently brushing a strand of fur from her face. I see you, Leora, and I care for you not because I have to, but because I want to. You've changed the way I think about the galaxy, about companionship, about trust. Her golden eyes glimmered, reflecting the moonlight. Then we are companions, she said, her voice soft but certain, and perhaps more in ways I do not fully understand yet. Ethan nodded, feeling the truth of her words. Together, he said simply, placing his hand over hers. Days turned into weeks as they explored the forested planet, each day deepening their understanding of each other. Leora demonstrated remarkable skill in navigating the natural environment, identifying edible plants, safe resting spots, and areas rich with natural resources. Ethan was amazed at her ability to combine instinct with intelligence, observing patterns and making connections he would have missed on his own. Their evenings became a time of reflection and conversation. They discussed the stars, the mysteries of the universe, and the dreams they held for the future. Leora spoke of returning to her people one day, sharing the knowledge she had gained and the experiences she had collected. Ethan shared his desire to explore, to witness new worlds, and to understand the vastness of the galaxy. Through these conversations, they learned not only about each other but about themselves. Ethan discovered patience, empathy, and the strength that came from relying on another being. Leora discovered trust, connection, and the value of companionship in a universe that often felt cold and indifferent. Together they grew, each learning from the other in ways neither had anticipated. One afternoon, while exploring a hidden grove, Leora paused, ears flicking in attention. She noticed a subtle shift in the air, a change in the natural energy of the forest. There is a current here, she said, her voice calm but alert. It is subtle but important. Follow my guidance and we move safely. Ethan nodded, trusting her instincts completely. They moved through the grove carefully, following her directions, avoiding pitfalls and unstable ground. Leora's awareness of the environment was extraordinary, and Ethan felt a deep respect for her abilities. Together, they navigated the terrain with ease, a seamless partnership that relied on trust, observation, and mutual understanding. As the sun set over the forest, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, Ethan and Leora sat by a small waterfall. The water sparkled in the fading light, and the gentle sound of its flow created a sense of calm and serenity. Leora turned to him, her eyes reflecting the colors of the sunset. Ethan, this moment, this place, and your presence, it is precious. You saved me, but you have also given me a new understanding of life. You have shown me that trust and care can exist even in the vastest emptiness of space. Ethan reached out, holding her hand gently. And you've given me the same, he said. You've shown me the importance of trust, of companionship, and of seeing the universe with new eyes. Together, we are stronger, wiser, and better. Leora smiled softly, a gesture full of warmth and gratitude. Then we continue together, she said. Through stars, through unknown worlds, through challenges and discoveries. Together. The night deepened, stars twinkling above like scattered gems, and the forest around them was alive with gentle sounds of nocturnal life. They sat quietly, hand in hand, feeling the weight and beauty of their shared journey. Each had found in the other a companion, a friend, and a partner who understood the unspoken language of trust and care. Their time on the forested planet became a period of growth, exploration, and deepening connection. Ethan and Leora shared meals, discoveries, and quiet moments of reflection. They observed the stars, learned about the cycles of the planet, and marveled at the beauty of life in its many forms. Leora's instincts and intelligence guided them through challenges, while Ethan's experience and compassion provided stability and support. Together, they created a bond that transcended species, distance, and circumstance, a bond built on trust, understanding, and mutual respect. As they prepared to leave the planet and continue their journey, Ethan glanced at Leora. "Are you ready for what comes next?" he asked. Leora's golden eyes met his, steady and confident. "I am," she said. "With you, I am ready for anything. Together, we face the stars." Ethan smiled, feeling a deep sense of purpose and connection. The universe stretched endlessly before them, filled with wonders, challenges, and mysteries waiting to be discovered. Yet, with Leora by his side, he felt prepared, confident, and inspired. Together, they would explore, learn, and grow, their partnership a testament to the power of trust, compassion, and the extraordinary potential of beings from different worlds coming together. And so, the ship lifted from the forested planet, moving into the vastness of space once more. Stars stretched endlessly around them, and the gentle hum of the engines filled the cabin with a comforting rhythm. Ethan and Leora, companions bound by trust and shared experience, gazed out at the infinite expanse, ready for the next stage of their journey together. The ship moved steadily through the quiet sector, stars glimmering like distant lanterns in the darkness. Ethan sat at the controls, his hands steady but relaxed, while Leora observed the patterns of light and energy through the observation window. They had traveled far from the nebula where their journey had begun, and each day had brought new lessons, challenges, and moments of wonder. Yet, despite the vastness of space, a sense of calm and purpose surrounded them. They were no longer merely travelers. They were partners, companions bound by trust, respect, and a growing sense of connection. Leora leaned against the railing, her golden eyes reflecting the starlight. "Ethan," she said softly, "we have seen much, learned much, and faced unknown currents together. But sometimes I wonder, what lies ahead? What new paths will the stars show us?" Ethan glanced at her, a small smile forming on his face. "That is the beauty of the universe," he replied. "We cannot know everything in advance, but we can face it together. That makes even the unknown less frightening." Her ears twitched in agreement. "Then together we continue," she said. The word carried weight, a promise of shared discovery and companionship. Their next destination was a small, uncharted system rumored to have planets rich with unique flora and fauna. According to the sparse data, the planets had never been fully explored, making them perfect for observation and learning. Ethan adjusted the ship's course, and together they prepared for the descent to the first planet, a lush, green world with rolling hills, crystalline streams, and skies that shimmered with a faint golden hue. The landing was smooth, and they stepped out onto the soft, springy ground. Leora's fur caught the sunlight as she moved forward, her senses absorbing every detail. The faint scent of alien flowers, the subtle vibrations of the ground beneath her paws, and the gentle hum of energy flowing through the atmosphere. Ethan followed, feeling a sense of awe he had not experienced in years of travel. The world was alive, vibrant, and full of possibilities. "This is remarkable," Ethan said, taking in the scenery. "I've never seen anything like it." Leora's ears flicked with delight. "It reminds me of home," she whispered, moving toward a small grove where the light filtered through leaves in golden patterns. "But it is also new. There is much to learn here." They spent the day exploring, observing the plant life, and documenting unusual patterns of energy that seemed to pulse through the soil and trees. Leora's instincts proved invaluable. She noticed subtle shifts in the air, identifying safe pathways and areas rich with life that Ethan would have overlooked. Her observations complemented his careful methodology, creating a partnership that was efficient, precise, and deeply connected. As evening approached, they returned to their small camp near a crystal-clear stream. Ethan prepared a simple meal while Leora arranged samples and recorded observations. Their routine was comfortable, almost meditative, yet filled with the excitement of discovery. They shared their thoughts about the planet, marveling at its beauty, and discussing ways they might learn more without disturbing the delicate ecosystem. When the stars appeared overhead, the sky alive with countless points of light, Leora turned to Ethan. "The stars here, they feel different," she said softly. "Closer perhaps, or brighter. It is hard to describe, but I feel possibility." Ethan looked up, taking in the brilliant expanse. "Possibility," he repeated. "Yes, that is exactly what it is, and we have it together. Whatever the galaxy offers, we face it side by side." Leora's eyes shone with quiet appreciation. "You saved me, Ethan," she said. "But now I see that we are more than savior and rescued. We are companions and perhaps more. I am yours as you said I am. And I choose to stay by your side through all that the universe presents." Ethan felt a surge of emotion he had never expected. "And I choose you, Leora," he replied. "Not because I have to, but because I want to. You've changed my life. You've made the stars brighter, the journey richer. With you, everything feels possible." Leora's ears twitched in delight, and she leaned slightly toward him, a gesture of trust, affection, and connection. The moment was simple, yet profound, a quiet acknowledgement that their journey together had transformed both of their lives. The following days were filled with exploration and learning. They visited different regions of the planet, observing the behavior of small creatures, studying the flow of energy in streams, and documenting the unique plants that thrived in the alien soil. Leora's senses and intelligence were extraordinary. She noticed patterns and subtle interactions that Ethan would have missed. Together, they cataloged findings, mapped the terrain, and shared insights, each moment strengthening their partnership. One afternoon, while observing a grove of luminous flowers, Leora paused, her ears flicking in attention. "Ethan," she said softly, "there is a subtle energy shift here. Something is influencing the environment, gentle but persistent. We should observe and learn." Ethan nodded, trusting her instincts completely. They spent hours recording data, following her guidance, and noting patterns that would have been imperceptible without her keen senses. The process was meticulous, yet deeply satisfying, a blend of learning, teamwork, and discovery that brought them closer together. As evening fell, they returned to camp. The twin moons of the planet cast soft light across the landscape, illuminating the gentle curves of hills and the sparkling flow of the stream. Leora turned to Ethan, her expression thoughtful. "The universe is vast," she said. "So much is unknown, so many possibilities. Yet with you I feel steady, I feel trust, I feel home." Ethan reached out, holding her hand gently. "And you have given me the same," he said. "I never expected to find someone like you in the stars. You've changed everything. How I see the universe, how I see connection, how I see life itself. Together, we are stronger and the stars feel less lonely." Leora's golden eyes glimmered with warmth and gratitude. "Then we continue," she said softly. "Together, through the stars, through discovery, and through all that comes our way." Days passed, and their exploration expanded to other planets in the system. They discovered floating gardens of crystal plants, streams filled with shimmering energy, and creatures that moved in patterns of color and light. Each discovery was shared with excitement, observation, and wonder. Ethan found joy in seeing Leora's reactions, the way her senses detected beauty and detail he might have overlooked. And Leora found joy in sharing these moments with someone who truly appreciated them, who listened, learned, and trusted her insights. One night, as they sat by a waterfall, watching the twin moons rise over the hills, Leora spoke softly. "Ethan, you saved me once from fire and destruction. But now you have given me something even greater, trust, companionship, and the knowledge that I am not alone in the universe. I am yours not because of circumstance but because of choice, and I choose to walk beside you wherever the stars take us." Ethan felt a deep, unspoken emotion, a mixture of gratitude, admiration, and connection. "And I choose you, Leora," he said quietly. You have changed my life in ways I cannot describe. Together, we are not just travelers, we are companions, partners, explorers. The galaxy is vast, but with you it feels like home. Leora's ears twitched, and she leaned slightly toward him, a gesture of trust, comfort, and companionship. The universe stretched endlessly around them, vast and full of mysteries, yet in that quiet moment they had found something rare and precious: each other. Their journey continued through the system, each day bringing new experiences, challenges, and wonders. They learned to anticipate one another's thoughts, movements, and insights, creating a rhythm of trust and cooperation. Each discovery strengthened their bond, and each quiet moment of reflection deepened their connection. In time, they prepared to leave the system, carrying with them the knowledge, experiences, and memories of the planets they had explored. As the ship lifted into space, stars stretched endlessly around them, and the gentle hum of engines filled the cabin. Ethan glanced at Leora, who sat beside him, her golden eyes reflecting the distant light of countless stars. "Where to next?" Ethan asked with a smile. Leora's tail flicked gently. "Wherever the stars lead us," she said. "Together." Ethan reached out, taking her hand. "Together," he echoed, feeling the truth and promise in the word. The ship sailed into the void, carrying two companions who had found more than survival. They had found trust, connection, and the extraordinary bond that could exist between beings from entirely different worlds. The galaxy was full of possibilities, mysteries, and wonders, but they faced it all with courage, curiosity, and each other. In the quiet of space, with stars stretching endlessly around them, Ethan and Leora shared a simple truth: that trust, care, and companionship could shine brighter than any distant sun. And as they journeyed on, the universe seemed smaller, warmer, and infinitely more welcoming because they faced it together. The fire of the wrecked shuttle was long gone, but the spark of their connection burned brighter than any star. In the vast, infinite expanse of the galaxy, two beings had found something eternal: companionship, trust, and the profound joy of sharing the journey of life. Together, they moved forward, hand in paw, hearts united, ready to embrace the wonders and mysteries of the universe.